Hey, talking with TOPDON here. We're just getting set up for our live webinar we're going to do today on professional series tools. We're primarily going to just kind of pilot the Phoenix Max today, but the user interface and what we're going to show you applies to all of the Pro Series tools. So we're going to take you through a bunch of different stuff, primarily focused on live data acquisition and things of that nature. So you'll be able to see pre-scans, post-scans, freeze frame data, all of that kind of stuff. We're going to try to take you through some of that. Now, we have a vehicle that is not actually super broken, so some of the features like freeze frame we may not be able to demonstrate for you right now simply because the vehicle is not broken. But we will try to walk you through a lot of the data acquisition tips and techniques, specifically with the Pro Series tools, so you can get a better feel for how to efficiently and effectively use your tool. Now, there are a few unique features about the Phoenix Max which I personally love even more simply because it makes that data acquisition just a little bit faster than you're able to achieve with literally any of our other tools in the Pro Series line. Now, that's not a big deal. There's a couple other things you can still use the other Pro Series tools. Mostly it surrounds the screenshot function. So we're going to show you that on the Phoenix Max. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to switch over here to the other video so you can see the Max. All right, so we are on the Phoenix Max. We do have our TOPDON T120 connected to the vehicle we're working on, and it is set to stable voltage supply mode. So we are going to be able to keep the battery steady while we go through our entire process. Uh-oh, hold on one second. We are losing our other camera here. Gotta always love that, right? Stand by for just a second here. There we go. She's back up. And so what we're going to take you through on the Phoenix Max specifically here is going to revolve around just overall data acquisition techniques. And what you're going to see with the data acquisition techniques is there are a lot of different ways to get the data off of the tool. So the first thing we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll pre-scan the vehicle. So when you go to scan a vehicle, you have the auto scan function or you have the scan function. Either or is going to take you into the vehicle and you will be able to see the same data. What the scan function gives you that the auto scan function does not is the ability to manually build the vehicle. Now, I have noticed in the newest updates on the tool, sometimes when you go into auto scan, it still gives you the option to manually build the vehicle. But just keep in mind that if you run into a vehicle that A will not automatically ID, or B, you want to manually ID it, maybe because you're on a really new vehicle and you know that that vehicle's platform lasts a span of, let's say, 5 years. And maybe you have the newest model year and you're curious, maybe the data is missing for a specific data PID or something along those lines. You can always try going back a year or going forward a year, depending on the vehicle you're working on. And sometimes that will fix the problem or allow you to see the data you're looking for. So we'll go back here. We're going to take you into auto scan first. So as we go into auto scan here, the tool is going to automatically pull the VIN from the vehicle. Now, it's really important to understand that when it pulls the VIN from the vehicle, it is pulling this information from a specific module. That specific module may be the engine control module. It might also be the transmission control module. It could also be another ancillary module like a body control module. So just keep this in mind since it is possible that that is going to happen. You want to be aware that it is possible the VIN will pull from another module. Now, why does that matter? The reason that that matters is you need to have that understanding so that when you are dealing with something like, let's say, for instance, a VIN that doesn't match the door plate on the vehicle. If the VIN doesn't match the door plate on the vehicle, that could be an indication that we have a module that has been swapped in the vehicle from a used module situation, possibly from another donor vehicle. And again, this may not necessarily be a problem, but you need to be aware of this so that when you are going through and attempting to diagnose the vehicle, you are cognizant of the fact that we could have an issue here with a module mismatch, right? And that can lead to a variety of other issues. So we just want to keep that in mind when we are going through this. That is always a possibility we need to be aware of. So let's go ahead and we'll go into this vehicle. And when we go into the vehicle menu, you're going to see here that we have a bunch of different selections. Now, some newer vehicles are going to have more options like this. And so we need to be aware that we choose the right menu here. So if we're in USA region or North America region, we're probably dealing with a 16-pin DLC. If we're in a different area of the world, then we may need to set this up differently. So if we look here under set area, we can pick the area that we are working in. Now I'm in North America, so I'm going to set it to North American area. What this is going to do for me is automatically filter the options and label them according to my region. So I'm in North America, so now you see 16-pin DLC, North America in parentheses. If you did not do this set area thing first, then you might be presented with more options and it may confuse you a little bit on what particular setting you need to choose. Now, this is not on all vehicles, this just happens to be on a Toyota here, but you may find options like this that you will have to choose when you're working on any variety of different vehicles. All right, so we're going to click 16-pin DLC. Now, when we're talking about a smart key or a not smart key on a Toyota, the non-smart keys have a blade, a physical key blade, and the smart keys typically are just proximity keys. They usually do not have a blade that you use to open the doors or start the vehicle. So just keep that in mind. And then as far as the radar cruise goes, this is referring to the ADAS functionality on the vehicle. So this vehicle does have radar cruise, so we're going to hit OK. And then you see it's going to ask us to confirm the build of the vehicle, including the VIN, the region we're working in, the year, and everything else. Now, the note that I made before is, you see we also have this option for manual select. It's super important to understand that when you're dealing with this, if you have that option for manual select, we went through the auto scan, but at this particular juncture, if we feel that the scan tool has incorrectly ID'd the vehicle, we can go into the manual select and we can change that build. So let's see what that looks like. So if we click on manual select here, what do we get for options? It's asking us to confirm we want to manually select. And now we can go in and build the vehicle however we want. Now we'll just go through and rebuild it the same way. And it is a 2022, and it is no smart key, and it is radar cruise. And so now it's been manually built the same way that the tool built it by itself. Okay. So now it's just giving us a quick warning. And of course, the tool is going to do kind of a pre-communication handshake with the vehicle in order to establish communication. This is essentially the tool confirming, hey, yes, the data you gave me is correct, and I'm going to build the topology for the vehicle accordingly and such. So where are we at now? Well, now we're going to walk you through some of the data acquisition. So we showed you what it was like to build the vehicle and the fact that through AutoScan, sometimes you're also going to have the ability to manually build the vehicle. Again, that's important to keep in mind because you may get a vehicle where the tool doesn't ID it correctly, or you have a module in the vehicle that is mismatched by VIN, which could cause the tool to incorrectly ID the vehicle. Or if you have a vehicle where maybe it's a build year split, you may need to play around with going up a year or down a year in order to achieve optimal function with the scan tool. So now we're going to go in and we're going to show you the scanning functions. So when we get to the topology screen here, we have a number of different options as far as the scanning goes. We have high speed scan, which is only going to be present on certain tools in the Pro Series line. The Max and the Smart absolutely have this feature. Now, why they have this feature and some of the other tools do not is because of the specific dongle that comes with the Max and the Smart. It is the highest technology and highest functionality of any of the dongles that go with the Pro Series tools. So again, if you want the fastest scanning and the greatest level of functionality in terms of communication protocols, in terms of vehicle coverage, all of that stuff, the Phoenix Max and the Phoenix Smart are the two tools you want to look at. So when we do scanning, once again, my camera is powering itself off here, so just bear with me for a second. When we do scanning, we want to keep in mind that those different options for scan, high speed scan, smart scan, system scan, each serve different functions. High speed scan is typically what most people are going to choose. I personally would recommend you choose Smart Scan. Smart Scan is the function that is going to retrieve all fault codes from all modules, and it is the most reliable and also the one that is present on all the Pro Series tools. High speed scan is nice, but I don't like the fact that it goes so fast simply because I'm always a little bit concerned it could miss something. Now, I've never seen any evidence to support that. However, that's just my preference, right? Everybody has preferences. My preference is to use Smart Scan. Now, both Smart Scan and High Speed Scan will retrieve the fault codes from modules, so that part is the same. The big difference you see is on High Speed Scan, it goes a little bit faster simply because it is designed to work in conjunction with newer vehicles that have faster bus networks, where the tool can take advantage of those bus networks, reach out and talk to all of those modules in the vehicle faster. And again, that is a unique feature that you see specifically with the Smart and the Max. So, all right. So let's take a look at high speed scan first. So we're going to go ahead and high speed scan, and you're going to see it is remarkably fast at how quickly it pulls the data from the modules. Pretty quick here. Now, again, it's going to depend on how many modules the vehicle has and how fast the bus network is, whether or not this is going to be done in like, 30 seconds or less. Now, we're not going to do a report yet because I want to show you some of the other functions. So we're going to go back, and if you click that back button in the top left corner, that allows you to clear the scan that you had up on the screen and then rescan the vehicle. So top left corner, system and function, you see that there, and that's how we clear out our scan. So again, if you're just joining us, we're walking through pre-scanning, post-scanning, diagnostic scanning, basic data acquisition on the TOPDON Professional Series tools. So now we're going to show you what the Smart Scan does. So you're going to notice it goes slower, not a lot slower, but definitely slower. And again, some of the speed of how fast that goes is going to be a function of the vehicle's bus network, right? Faster bus network, faster scanning. So newer vehicles are typically going to scan faster than older vehicles. That is true regardless of what scan tool you are using. Just something to keep in mind. All right, I'm just watching the chat here to see what we got for questions. So we had a question talking about programming with the Elite. So I can give you some general information on that. So on the Pro Series tools, the Elite, the Smart, the Max, the Remote, uh, those tools all have what we refer to as cloud programming, and that's not what we're covering today, but I can address this just a little bit. That particular functionality is specifically like a Google Drive full of Flash files. When we say flash files, those are the physical software files required in order to program a control module. So let's talk about that just a little more. That Google Drive has a certain number of files, flash files, for certain modules on certain vehicles. It is not comprehensive. It does not cover all vehicles or all modules. On the Phoenix Elite specifically, it is limited only to European vehicles. And again, it's not going to have files for every car or every module. It will, however, have some files for some vehicles and some modules. This is best looked at as a bonus feature or a value added, not as a one-stop shop. And I know that that sometimes gets a little bit confusing for people, and so that's why I wanted to address that. If you are having any issues downloading the files, for instance, you go to program a module and it says there's a file, but you can't download it, this is typically an issue with your internet service provider and or potentially with your network connectivity. So you may need to try, let's say if you're on Wi-Fi, maybe you want to try a phone hotspot. If you try a phone hotspot, maybe you want to try a hardline Ethernet Wi-Fi, like a router, right? Something like that. If none of those options work, then you want to set up a support ticket. So if you go to topdon.us if you're in the United States, or topdon.com if you're in the global market, and you submit a support ticket, give them your serial number and add any screenshots from the tool that show what the error is, and they can address that. Sometimes that is, hey, we have to push a VPN to the tool so that it doesn't block the download of the file, right? That is always a possibility. If that happens, then that's what you need to do is simply file a support ticket and they can get that set up on the tool. So, all right, we'll shuffle back here to the Macs. Hopefully that answered the question or at least got you a little further down the road. So we just did Smart Scan, and it still went really fast, right? So it wasn't like it was super time consuming or anything along those lines. What we have the ability to do now, we'll go back one more time just to show you the other scan functions. So System Scan is not going to retrieve any fault codes. It's just going to ping all the modules and see if they are physically present or installed, right? So that is important to keep in mind. You notice how they're blue if they exist and the tool was able to simply reach out to that module and say, hello, are you there? That's all the tool did there on that. It just simply said, hey, are you there? It did not retrieve any fault codes. And again, that was system scan mode. If we do choose to scan, we have little check marks next to every module. So if we want to scan a group of modules, we can check all the modules we want to scan. If we just want to check a specific module, we can remove all the check marks and we can say, hey, you know what? We had a problem with 3 specific modules. We're just going to scan 3 specific modules. And now it is going to ask those modules if they have codes. Now this one, we picked 3 modules. Only one of those is equipped and only one of those is talking, which is the green one, right? So again, keep in mind the function of each of these, right? So we have high-speed scan and smart scan. Those will retrieve fault codes. So that's what you're going to use to get your fault codes out of the vehicle. System scan is just going to ping the modules and say, are you equipped and are you there? And choose to scan allows you to interact with individual modules and create a report that is only with those specific modules. So again, just want to make that clear. And again, we're talking about the Pro series today, and we're talking about data acquisition. So basic scanning, pre-scans, post-scans, we're going to show you some live data stuff. All of that kind of stuff is what we're covering today. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and we're going to do a high-speed scan. And we're going to talk to all the modules on the network. When we do a scan, a high-speed scan or a smart scan, we want to pay attention because if there is, for instance, a module that is offline due to a network data bus problem or a loss of power to that module, typically you will find other modules on the network that will have fault codes saying that. So in this case, we have lots of modules that are gray. Gray could mean it's not equipped. Gray could also mean that it's currently not communicating. The clues we want to look for in this would be specifically, hey, are any other modules on the network with that module that I think is not talking, are they complaining about it or not? If you're not sure, one of the things you can do to check this is you can scan the vehicle like we just did. You can scan the vehicle just like we did. You can then back out of the scan, turn the key off for 30 seconds, turn the key back on again, and then rescan the vehicle. If there is a communication problem, in the majority of cases, you will get the fault codes to re-trigger if, for instance, they went inactive and are no longer shown on the screen. So just keep that in mind. All right, So we have now scanned this vehicle and we have our screen up in front of us with all of the modules. Now we can create a report from this screen. The other thing we can do, and this works again on all of the Pro Series tools, we can simply hit the screenshot button, the one that looks like a little mountain, the second from the bottom left. If we hit that, we can take a screenshot specifically of whatever we are looking at right now. So if you wanted to take a picture of the bus topology like this, we can do that. Not a big deal. But again, the shortcut you see here on the Macs is unique to the Macs. On all of the other Pro Series tools, you simply drag your finger from the very top of the screen in a downward motion, and you will get all of the shortcuts for screen recording, screenshots, and a variety of other shortcuts that may be useful to you. So I just wanted to mention that. Now that we've scanned the vehicle, we can report and save. Now, once we get to the report screen, we have three distinct options. We have a pre-scan, we have a post-scan, and we have a diagnostic scan. The pre-scan would be before we've touched anything on the vehicle when the vehicle first enters our possession. That is what we would want to label a pre-scan. So we're going to label this pre-scan. We're going to hit OK. We'll scroll down. Once we get to a pre-scan and we're building this report, we also have this little function in the bottom left that allows us to attach a picture. So we can either use the camera on the back of the tool, or we can choose a photo from our photo library. So let's say we wanted to upload the picture of the topology. We can upload up to 4 pictures and hit OK. And now you have pictures of the module topology uploaded to this report. Now, if we are also going to create multiple reports for this vehicle, we want to hit that sync button on the bottom left. Then we're going to hit OK. And now it's going to create a report. Again, if you are just joining us, we are talking about the Pro Series tools. So you see here, here's our report with all the modules that we scanned. No fault codes in any of these modules currently. And if we hit the QR code with our phone, we can pull up the report on any device. We can also email it from here. I always recommend emailing in PDF format. That is the most, universal format you will find. We're going to open the report so you can see what it looks like now. So here is our report. And at the very bottom of the report, you can see the embedded images that we added. Now, maybe you're going to embed images of something like trouble lights on the dash, right? So the customer comes in, says there's 5 different lights on the dash when the car is running. Okay, if you confirm that, the pre-scan, you're going to take a picture of the dash and you're going to show, yes, we confirmed, we agree, we see this, right? Then when we do the post-scan, if we have fixed that problem, then we can embed those pictures into the post-scan. So we can take another picture of the dash with the lights that's no longer on and embed those into the report. So now the customer will have the ability to see, hey, it was broken before and now it's fixed. And here is the documentation that backs that up. Now, if you're in the report here, you can still email it from here after you open it to review it. This little button in the top right corner with the kind of sideways 3-dot triangle thing allows you to email it right from here. You also still have your QR code. So that's what our pre-scan looks like. Let's see what happens. We're going to go ahead and keep in mind we can clear the fault codes from the screen. One minor note I want to point out specifically about clearing codes: you may need to go into the individual module to clear the fault codes. Sending a global clear fault code command from the screen may not clear all fault codes in all modules. So keep in mind, and this happens on multiple different brands of scan tools, so just keep in mind that's not a unique feature or function of TOPDON or limitation. That is a limitation of sending the can command across the network to clear fault codes to all modules. Sometimes that command is not acknowledged when you send it across the entire network like a scan tool does. Sometimes you have to go directly to an individual module and tell that module, hey, you guy, you need to clear that fault. So just keep that in mind. We are going to back out of the report now, and we're going to pause just for a second here and look at our questions. Okay, so we have just a couple of questions in here. We're going to take a look. So Doug is asking about scanners for domestic and Asian vehicles. The Phoenix Smart is probably always going to be your best choice in our Pro Series. If you're not going to work on any significant volume of cars and all you're really looking for is live data acquisition, pre-post scan, read and clear fault codes, the Phoenix Lite 3 is another tool you could consider. That one is definitely a very affordable tool that will do CAN FD. Uh, CAN FD is the latest data protocol that is used commonly on Asian and domestic vehicles. When you get into European, they use another protocol called DOIP, Diagnosis over Internet Protocol. DOIP specifically is only currently supported by the Phoenix Max and the Phoenix Smart, which is why we always recommend the Max and the Smart if you want maximum functionality in terms of vehicle compatibility and greatest level of features and functions. And another note there on both the Max and the Smart, because of the dongle's advanced functionality, the Max and the Smart also have the capability of adding heavy duty software. So that is another unique feature due to the fact that they have a more advanced vehicle communication interface. So just wanted to mention that. But the Light 3 is also a great choice, addressing Doug's question about scanners for a gentleman maybe who is not working on a large volume of vehicles and working on primarily domestic and Asian. Hopefully that answers that question. All right, so let's go back into the Max here. And again, we're going to talk a little bit more about pre-scans, post-scans, and data acquisition in general terms. So we're going to go ahead and do another high-speed scan here. And we are going to specifically label this one a diagnostic, or excuse me, we're going to label this one a post scan. We're going to say, hey, look, we fixed the problem. We had a fault before. Now we don't have a fault anymore. We're going to create a post scan for documentation purposes, right? All right, so our report is done. We're going to hit report. We're going to open it. Okay, there it is. Now, sometimes you have to exit out of the vehicle before it will let you create a new separate report. So in this case, I'm going to have to exit out and rebuild the vehicle here, and then it will allow me to create an integrated report. If we don't leave the topology screen and rebuild the vehicle, the tool may not acknowledge that you have physically disconnected, fixed a problem, and now you're coming back in to do a post scan. So just keep that in mind. I have found that to happen once in a while, so just something to be aware of. Okay, so now we're going to do a high-speed scan, and this is going to be our post scan. So you can see it's going to pull all the info again, and it's going to make a new report here. Now, another thing, if you have not noticed, in the top right corner, we do also have a live voltage display. And the live voltage display is going to tell us if we have any battery issues with the vehicle while we're doing this scan. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to do post scan, and we're going to hit OK, and it's going to create that. We're going to hit sync, and then we're going to hit add. So again, now we're going to embed a picture of the dash. So we're just going to scroll down, and I have a picture of the dashboard on this vehicle. We're going to hit OK, and then we're going to add a scan. So each of these, if you look at the left side, you have pre-scans, diagnostic scans, and post-scans. Now I've scanned this vehicle a ton of times, so of course I have lots of reports stored. Now, if you look at the file names are all written by date stamping and by VIN. So if we look in the far right here, 2025 0211 those are the dates, right? So now we know when those dates or when those reports were generated. So if we wanted to use a pre-scan, right now we've got a pre-scan we want to integrate. We could go back to an older pre-scan, just as an example here, and we're going to hit OK. And now it's going to integrate the pre-scan and the post-scan into one synchronous report. Now you can also integrate a diagnostic scan if you prefer, but as you see here, look at what we have. Pre-scan, it shows whoever we talked to and whoever had faults. Post-scan shows all the particular modules we talked to and whether or not those faults are no longer present. So in this case, that pre-scan was actually from when I did an ADAS calibration. So those faults were before I carried out the calibration. And obviously those faults are all gone now because I did in fact recalibrate the ADAS. So now we have that integrated report. If we open the report, we can see all of the data together in one synchronous report and any embedded pictures that we added to the report. So you can see how this is really good for customer communication, immortalization of the data that you're collecting, getting that information into your shop management system, emailing that information to your customers, however it is that you want to communicate using your tool, or if you just happen to be someone who works on a couple of your own cars, you still have the way to store and save all of that data to help you kind of know what is the baseline health of my vehicle before we worked on it? What is the health of my vehicle now after I believe I've remedied a problem, right? Having that ability to make those really nice reports is a huge benefit. And again, that is found on all of the Pro Series tools. So let's go ahead and we're going to show you maybe a couple more things here with data acquisition. So we'll go back out of our report and I'll switch back over to the screen here for you. I'm going to pre-scan or rescan it again, and then we'll take you back into everything. All right, so we're going to go into the TPMS on this one just for fun. So it tells you what the function of the module is. So the screen you're going to have on each module is going to vary depending on what functions that module has. Some modules are not going to have a very large variety of functions. They may have read and clear fault codes, module ID, and maybe read data stream. It's going to vary by module and it's going to vary by vehicle. Some vehicles modules will have more capabilities or functions and others will have less. Just keep that in mind because you're not always going to get the same array of options on every vehicle or module. All right, so we're going to go into read fault code first. And of course, we don't have any faults. But what I want to point out here is we do have the ability to create a report specifically inside an individual module. That is important to know and useful if you are trying to recreate a fault and you only want to talk to that one module, and or if you want to address only a specific concern and not create reports with all of that other extraneous data, right? Sometimes we want narrow and specific data. Sometimes we want broad and less specific data. The tool gives you the ability to do that. So again, if you're just joining us, we're going through data acquisition, pre-scans, post-scans, graphing data, all of that kind of stuff on the TOPDON Pro Series tools. So now we're going to look under data stream. So if we look in read data stream, we're going to have a variety of different options, again, depending on the vehicle and depending on the module that we're talking to. Now, this Toyota has quite a few different data PIDs that we can look at, specifically related to TPMS. I'm just going to select all of them and hit OK, and we'll scroll through them one at a time. So you can see what some of these data PIDs are. Now, one of the other things that you may have access to is if you see right here, when you're looking at live data, sometimes you're going to have the ability to click on this to change the units live right here in the tool. while you are looking at the data stream. So you see here, if I want to look at what is the initial threshold of low pressure, I could change this to any value. Maybe I want to look at it in bar. It may not update until I go back. We'll go back and redo it here. And it looks like it did not, so let's try PA. And we'll go in and we'll graph it once. Okay, there we go. So now it changed. Sometimes you have to refresh the data. So we'll go back to PSI and we'll go graph, and there we go. And it goes back. Now, the other thing you will see here is the ability to graph quite a few data PIDs all at once. And I want to talk about how we're graphing data PIDs and how we acquire our data in a general sense. So, one of the things when you're using the Pro Series tools to diagnose, there's a couple of considerations I'd like you to think about. When we're going to acquire data, we can connect the dongle for the scan tool in a couple of different ways. Number one, all of the tools support Bluetooth. Bluetooth, however, is not necessarily the fastest data transmission between the dongle and the scan tool. So if we want the best overall data fidelity, integrity, speed, we want to use a USB cable. Nothing is better than hardline connection. You can always connect your tool as long as it has a USB port on the dongle, you can connect that to the scan tool itself. When you do that, that is going to increase and improve any data sampling you've performed and ensure the best accuracy. Now, it's not crucial on every situation, but if you are trying to do live data acquisition or analysis, that's definitely something you want to consider. Now, on the Phoenix Max, you do also have the ability to use either Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. So we'll show you in the menu how you can set that up. So we'll go back. And the nice thing about all of the Pro Series tools is you can hit this little home button in the very top right corner, just to the right of the voltage display, and go back to the main screen without losing what you are currently doing in the vehicle. So we're going to hit the little gear, or you can hit user info in the bottom right. And we're going to scroll down or scroll up here. We're going to go to MDCI Pro Management. Now, it's not going to let you switch this while you're live on a car. You would have to change that out, or you'd have to quit your diagnostic process and then change it. I am currently using Wi-Fi for the dongle to connect via scan tool. The default is going to be Bluetooth, but keep in mind that everybody has this option on the Phoenix Max. I recommend the Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi typically has a higher range and also stronger signal integrity. So less likely to lose connection, and also better if you are sitting, maybe you're sitting at your workbench and you want to work on the car and look at the live data sitting at your workbench, maybe while you are looking at service information. The Wi-Fi is going to allow greater range and better signal fidelity. So again, something to keep in mind. So we're going to go back to the home and we're going to go back into the scan, and it's going to take us back to our live data. Now, again, a couple of things we want to keep in mind here is when we are looking at all this live data, we do have a variety of options. If we want to graph, we can graph a very large number of data PIDs. If you see here, look how many we have up on the screen. We have 12 data PIDs on the screen. Now, if we scroll, whoops, excuse me. If we scroll, we should be able to go to the next page. It looks like maybe it's not going to let me do that. If we tap any individual graphs, it's going to take us into a zoomed in individual graph, right? Right here. You can see our temperature is slowly rising. These tires, or this vehicle, is sitting outside for an extended period of time in very cold temperatures. So if we were to graph this over a long period of time, we would be able to see that the temperature is slowly rising, which makes sense, right? The vehicle's indoors now, and it was outside for a long time, right? We can view all of the data PIDs by checking and unchecking. What I'd recommend doing is, when you're trying to choose your graphs, I would choose what you want here in this menu first, and then go into the graphing function. So let's look at ID inflation pressure. ID3 tire inflation pressure, ID4 tire inflation pressure. 2, 2, 1, 1. Okay? So those are all the data pits related to current pressure in the tires. And you can see it's showing us in both kPa and PSI. So now we can graph. And remember, another important note here when we're talking about graphing, and this is a general principle when we're talking about graphing, the more data PIDs that you graph, the slower the data sampling rate will be on each individual graph. If you think about it this way, the tool can only pull so much data as it reaches out to the car and says, give me information. The more individual pieces of information it asks for, the slower the vehicle is at responding back and saying, here's your data, here's your data, here's your data. When you're asking for 12 different things, the car has to go, here's all those 12 things, here's your data. Here's all those 12 things, here's your data. When we only have one data PID, it's gimme, yes, gimme, yes, gimme, yes, much faster, right? So just keep that in mind when you are doing any live data acquisition like this. Now, the other thing to keep in mind here is if you have graphs on the screen, like we do right now, we can take a quick screenshot. So this is really good for live data acquisition when we are trying to troubleshoot a problem on a car live. We can hit that screenshot button. If we get an abnormality in one of the graphs, something oddball is happening and we want to catch it, our time base is zoomed out enough on the graphs that you're going to be able to see this. Now, if you would also prefer to narrow the number of data PIDs you're looking at simultaneously, we can hit the combine button here and we can say, hey, we want one. Well, that's the kPa one. So we're going to do, that's PSI. So we're going to go, because we want to have the same numeric value data PIDs here. Yep. So that looks like it should be the same. And for, yep. Okay. So now we have all four data PIDs in the same range in terms of PSI. We can pinch the screen to zoom in and out. So pinch it closer together to zoom out. Pinch away to zoom in. Keep that in mind. That's good to have at your disposal. You can do this both in the vertical and the horizontal axis. So just keep that in mind when you're trying to do data acquisition. You do have the ability to do that. A lot of people are not aware of the gesture scaling function, but that is a very important thing to take note of when you are doing live data acquisition with the tool. So we're back out here. The other thing that we can do is on the screen, we can actually hit the report button. Maybe it's not going to let us. Oh, nope, it is. So we're going to just say, we're going to call this a diagnostic scan. We're going to hit a report. We're going to hit OK. And let's see what it gives us. So that is a momentary snapshot in time of those data PIDs. So if you get this vehicle to brake and one of those data PIDs is stuck, like let's say for instance, one of the pressures goes flatline and it's not reading correctly anymore because maybe the battery on the TPMS sensor is dying. If we catch that live broken at any individual point in time, we have the ability to literally hit the report button right when it's broken and save that. And that is tremendously valuable because, again, we can integrate that into digital shop management systems. We can save it to a vehicle history report, anything we want to communicate with a customer, or if it's our own vehicle, save for future reference. So we can say, hey, you know what? I figured out what was wrong with this vehicle, and I caught it live red-handed, right? Pretty cool to be able to do that. Now, you can go back and forth between graph by simply hitting the value button. So if you want to look at values instead of graphs, you can hit graph to go back to graphs and value to go back to values. So a lot of different things we can do with the data stream here. And again, being able to write that data in one specific snapshot in time to a PDF report is a good tool, especially if you catch a vehicle broken live in one shot. I'm just looking at the chat to see if we have any other questions right now on any of this. Looks like we do not at the moment. Of course, if you do come across additional questions, please always reach out to us, let us know. We are always interested in what new topics we could cover when we are going to do these webinars like this. and we would like to provide content that you find helpful. Obviously, our YouTube channel is full of lots of content we try to provide for helping use our tools. But of course, if there's other types of videos you'd like to see specifically, let us know and we'll really try to create that content for you. So we look at all the data stream stuff and we have the ability to write these reports, right? So we can write these reports. We can get all this information on the tool. We can email that information. We can take screenshots. That's great, right? What are some of the other things that you wonder about when you're trying to record data? I bet you like to record the graphs, right? I know a lot of people really like recording the graphs. So let's go in and we're going to show you something specifically about recording graphs I want you to keep in mind. When we pick a variety of data PIDs and we are going to graph them, we can hit this Save Sample button. When we do that, it's going to record any of the data PIDs that are on the screen. We can also hit the graph button and record it this way. Now, I have found that occasionally the tool does not save this file. So when we hit stop, it saves some of this information. However, sometimes I've hit that save button and it says it was not successfully saved. Or it just says it does, but failed to do so. If you ever encounter this, or you would like a backup plan, so to speak, let's show you another way you can save data. We're going to go here to the little home button in the top right corner. We're going to go back into the user info section, and we're going to scroll down specifically, and we're going to go to screen recorder. That is where our screen recordings will be stored. If we go to the secondary settings menu on the very bottom here, we're going to turn on the screen floating window. Now that is the only way that it works on the Macs. On the Smart, the Elite, the Lite 3, the Remote, the X-Link, all of those, you simply drag from the top of the screen down and you will see a little picture of a video camera. That little picture of the video camera will allow you to turn on the screen recorder button that we see here that I am moving around with my finger. That little picture will appear when you activate the screen recorder from the top menu, dragging from the top of the screen down on the Smart, the Elite, the Lite 3, and all of the other Pro Series tools specifically. The Max is the only one that uses the screen floating window menu. So once we set up the screen floating window menu and turn it on, and go back to our home, and now go back into our scan, we're going to exit out of what we were saving there, and now we can start screen recording. So if we want to physically capture exactly what is on the screen, what we are physically seeing with our eyes right now, it's going to crash the tool, by the way, because I always forget that if you turn the screen recorder on, it crashes the HDMI cable connection. So that's normal. My apologies. But if we turn on the screen recorder function, we will find specifically, I'm just going to plug it back in here. So give me a moment. I might have to reboot the tool. Yeah, it doesn't like it if you turn the screen recorder on when you are attempting to specifically do other stuff. So we're going to, oh yeah, I totally made it mad. I forgot I did this on one of our other videos. I really made the tool upset. Yeah, don't turn the screen recorder on when you are using HDMI. All right, we're going to reboot the tool real quick here. So going back to what we were saying, doing that screen recorder function is going to allow you to basically get exactly what you are seeing with your eyes on the screen recorded in a video format. Now, why do I like this? I like this because you can plug in a USB stick to your tablet, pull the file off, that video, and you can put that on a laptop, you can put that on a desktop, whatever you want to put that video file on, it's universal in nature, right? That means that you're going to be able specifically to review that data, that video on any device you want. Now, the other thing I'll point out is if you have let's say a video recording suite, any program that you can use to view video, many of those video suites will allow you to extract a screenshot. So if you have, let's say, graph data that you're recording, I'm just going to pause here and plug the tool back in. If you have graph data that you are recording and you would like to extract a screenshot from that recording, you can freeze that video recording and you can extract a screenshot from it. That is a pretty unique and beneficial function to be able to do that, right? Again, the goal here is to be able to get the information off the tool so that we can get that information into our shop management system, in the hands of the customer, etc. That is the ultimate goal that we have for that data that we are acquiring. So we're going to go back and we're going to auto scan here and we'll take you back into the tool here. We'll pause just for a second here. Do we have any other questions about data acquisition or any of the stuff we've been talking about today? All right, so we're back in the tool. All right, I'm going to rebuild it here. Radar cruise. Okay, okay. And you can clearly see when we get into stuff and you get comfortable with the tools, you can blow through this stuff pretty fast, right? The tools are fast, responsive, very, very, very good performance, right? All right, so we're going to go back in here and we're just going to talk about a couple other things we have. I am going to actually go unplug something on the car and try to set a fault code and show you what freeze frame data looks like. So if you'll pardon me for just a second here, I'm going to walk over to the vehicle and I am going to actually unplug the mass airflow sensor if I can. Don't want to break a connector because we are dealing with some pretty brutal temperatures here right now, and some of the plastic is a little on the fragile side, as you can imagine. Boy, oh boy, that is stubborn. Connectors are never easy to get off, are they? And when it's cold, it hurts your fingers to try and get them off. There we go. All right, so we'll see if we can actually trigger a fault code. You should be angry, Mr. ECM. Oh, you're angry. Good. We made it mad. All we did was unplug the mass airflow sensor, which likely contains the intake air temperature sensor. So we should expect to have a bunch of fault codes. But I just want to go over a couple other elements here, specifically with data acquisition before we wrap up for today. So you see we got a bunch of faults set. We're going to go in and you notice we also have on this vehicle, and you will find this on a number of vehicles, you will have EOBD and ECM. EOBD is going to take you into generic. So these are all OBD specific fault codes. And then ECM is going to take us into the manufacturer specific fault codes. So not every car is going to have this shortcut like this, but a lot of cars do. If we go in here and hit enter, we can look at, do we have freeze frame data? And in many situations, you will. Not all situations, but in many situations, you will. When you have freeze frame data, you can take a look at freeze frame by hitting the freeze frame button, and there may be a variety of pieces of information that have been logged. And it looks like there's a fair number of things here, but you may be able to find some really specific clues in the freeze frame data if you are attempting to diagnose a specific issue. Sometimes it's not going to be of much value or interest. Sometimes it's going to have a bunch of information. This is pretty robust freeze frame data. Looks like we also have additional pages. So this particular vehicle appears to have logged quite an astronomical amount of data related to this fault. 3 pages worth of freeze frame data. So actually quite a bit of information that might help us diagnose this problem. Now, again, if we wanted to save any of this information, the easiest way to do so is to hit our screenshot button. So now we're going to go back here and you could check and see if the freeze frame for any of these faults is different or the same. Now, the other thing we can do is if we go into read fault code memory, you're also going to see the menu for freeze frame. Some codes will not have a freeze frame button because there isn't freeze frame data logged for those codes. Now, if we go back here and we go into the EOBD, EOBD may actually have different freeze frame data than we see from the OEM specific data. So here it's entering the tool into OBD mode. And you see on the very bottom right, it says EOBD, OBD2. And if we hit read freeze frame data in OBD mode, we may physically get different information. And it looks like we do. Now, is some of this information going to overlap? Very possibly. Is some of this information going to be different? Also possible. Now, we can also do a report from OBD freeze frame data. So if we wanted to save this information, we could make it a diagnostic scan. Or, of course, we could also do a simple, we're going to call that diagnostic scan. Okay. Then we'll go back. We could also take screenshots of this information as well. So whatever way we would prefer to log the data is something that we can do that. Now, I will also point out when you look at OBD mode may also, if it's an engine related fault code, it may also tell you what specific DTC fault code caused the freeze frame data to be stored. So in this case, it says P0113 is the fault code that caused the freeze frame data to be stored. So again, something useful to keep in mind. Just one more way that you can get information, another form of data acquisition. And again, it's going to work the same way on all the Pro Series tools with the minor exception of screen recording and screenshots. That is the one menu that you're going to see is the screen recording and the screenshots. Again, on all the other Pro Series tools, we simply drag our finger from the top of the screen downward, and you will get menus for, there will be a picture of a little clipboard and a picture of a little video camera, and each of those are for screenshots and screen recording. So just keep that in mind with the other Pro Series tools. But you can see we went through pretty large amount of different information showing you how you can access the graphing, how you can manipulate the graphs, how you can save that data, how you can do a screen recording of that data, pretty much all of that stuff. We went through that today on the Pro Series tools. If you have more questions on this specific subject, let us know. Shoot us a message on Facebook, shoot us a message in the YouTube channel. However you want to get in touch with us, we're always trying to create some more videos that will help you use the tools more effectively. And we're always interested in your feedback as far as what will make your life easier and what will improve your user experience. So I appreciate you taking the time to come and watch the webinar today. And of course, if you are able to let your friends know, we typically do these at least one Tuesday each month, right around noon, USA Central Time. So if you would like to join us, keep an eye on the YouTube channel, the Instagram, and all of our other social media channel platforms. Typically, you will see us live at about noon Central Time in USA time zone on Tuesdays at least once a month. So thanks again for coming to attend, and hopefully you learned something about data acquisition, pre-scans, post-scans, and acquiring or sharing data from your tool. And again, any questions or thoughts, please just let us know. So thanks again for coming. And as always, I'm Hawken with TOPDON. So we'll see you again next time.